Okay, we're now recording. So trade shows, the way this all came about was some years ago, I had a client that said, trade shows are no good. And I said, maybe it's not the trade show, maybe it's you. And I'll prove it to you and we'll have a trade show. And so we did it the first time. Lots of people came. It was great. We were asked to do it again. We did a second time, a third time. We were then up to doing them twice a year. And what happened was, because we were giving classes prior to the trade show, the one afterwards, we got better at doing them from the one afterwards. The exhibitors got better at doing them from the two before, and we were on to something. And many of you have attended our live shows. And so this is our 10th trade show and our third virtual trade show. So that's pretty exciting stuff. And I don't know how many of you have attended virtual trade shows other than ours. Raise your hand if you've been to a virtual trade show other than ours. So nobody, right? I've gone because I need to see how other people do them, and they're awful, right? They're not interactive. They're not this. You go to a barely a booth and you click on a link and see a video. That's not what we're going to do here. These are going to be interactive and as close to live as we can do, just without touching. We'll discuss that and how to make these things work for you. Okay. So ours will never be awful, I promise you. So I've been attending trade shows for 30 years, and I can tell you that a lot of trade show, the success that you can have is from creating your own luck. That it's a little bit of being here now, networking with each other, hearing what each other does, right? Connecting these dots. Maybe there's a string going in the chat. I'm not sure because I can't look at all these screens, but it's really connecting and setting up your one-to-ones and getting to know each other and see how you can work together. Similar how Jerry had said that him and Eric could work together. It's that kind of stuff. So just, I compare it in the book to having an extra roll of duct tape. So a lot of the networking that happened in the big trade shows in the old days was you'd show up the day before to set up. And once you were done, you wouldn't just go home, you'd help your neighbor. If they needed duct tape, you'd have it or whatever it was. And you'd meet people on flights and elevators, cab rides, that kind of stuff. Create a little of your own luck, right? So these kinds of meetings, I feel, are all part of it. You never know what connections you're going to make and where they can help you. So you're meeting someone like Marco, and let's say a year from now, you're in a different business and you need a logo. You'll know Marco from doing these kinds of things. I remember I ended up buying a big deal trade show booth. It was, I used to do hard wall shows, which meant you had to have walls in your booth and monitors and a floor, and they had to condense into these rolling racks. And, I think I had 8 these plastic rolling racks, and it was a 10,000 pound booth. And I go from city to city with it when I was inventing. And I bought that from somebody I met at a trade show. And where else would you find somebody who did that? And she was great and it was terrific. So on a big level, trade shows make all the exhibitors like gypsies, right? So we are all on a journey together until June 2nd. And we are all going to be helping each other grow to have a great trade show, right? So I compare it to gypsies. It could be deadheads. It could be any kind of, it could be the circuses in town, whatever you want, but we're all in this together to make this a great show for each other. We're going to get all kinds of people coming. There's going to be what I call the plate lickers. They're here for the free samples. They're here for the free food if we had food or whatever it is. You're going to get the competitors. You're going to get real prospects, real centers of influence. You're going to get all kinds of people. Just know how to handle that and be open to it. Be very aware of your body language. Be aware of what to do when you're in a conversation with somebody and then a third person comes into your booth. How are you going to handle that? One of the most important things to discuss and for you to have a plan for is how to capture information, right? So we've talked about a lot of things of getting the guest QR codes, and we haven't figured it out yet. But what I can tell you is if somebody came into your booth live or here, we need to be able to capture information and to give information, right? So have a plan there. And part of that is greeting people when they come in, because if you don't acknowledge them, they're going to click on the next booth and they're gone. And the disadvantage of this platform is you can't chase them. You know, if it's a live show, you can run down the hall and say, hey, I'm sorry I missed you. What were you in for? What are you interested in? Can't do that here. You got to grab them. So I would find a way of having conversations that can be quick and grow and evolve. And I would also suggest that these trade shows will ebb and flow in terms of busyness. Know what you're going to do with your downtime. Know what you're going to do with your busy time and how to handle that. Okay. Jen, I'm sure you know enough not to be in the branch the day of the show, you know, because you can't be pulled in 3 directions live and in the show all at once, and it's going to be very difficult. It does take attention. At your guys' request, we added an hour to this show. So we're now 1 to 5:30, and that we got from the follow-up meeting last time. That does suggest to me there will be some downtime, right? So just know what you're going to do with that. A lot of the work of a trade show comes before. It's from this point forward. It's getting the traffic. So I'll tell you that all of you being here have a responsibility to the community as gypsies to bring at least 10 people. I'll bring more than that. But if you guys bring at least 10 people, let's say we have 20 exhibitors, that's 200 people. That's a good show for everyone, right? So it's not on me. It's not my responsibility to bring the traffic. It's ours. And we will ask every guest that comes in who invited them, who they're here to see. So we know, okay? So there's a lot of work before. There's clearly work during. There's also a lot of work afterwards. I find the key to trade shows is in the follow-up. Okay. And if you're not going to follow up, why do the show? Right? If you're going to get a dozen, 20, 30 leads, whatever you might get, 2 doesn't, you know, if you're not going to follow up with them, why do the show? Right? So promise yourself, promise me, promise each other that you're going to follow up. Work on your invitation. So if you're going to invite 10 people to the show, and I can't stress this enough, that probably means social media posts. That probably means your BNI groups or whatever it might be. You're going to invite people. We're going to give you a flyer. Marco's going to give you a flyer. I'm going to ask all of you, Marco, why don't you change your name to your email address so we all have it? Okay.
Yeah.
I need all of you to send Marco your logo. And if he doesn't have your logo by tomorrow, you won't be on the flyer because you're all going to say to me, where's the flyer? Where's the flyer? And we're going to have it to you by Monday so we can start pumping this out. So I know he has most of yours. If it's changed or whatever it is, or if you want to make sure, please email Marco. And he just put it on there. Okay. Your logo, or again, you won't be on the flyer. And I know that's important to some of you. So back to the invitation, and I want you to think about this. So if we want 10 people to come to the show, let's say worst case scenario, we have a 1% success rate. That means sending out 1,000 invitations to get 10 people. The value isn't in the 10 people. It's in the 990 people that got your invitation and didn't come. That's as valuable as the ones that do. Because now it's a touch, right? So you're saying hello, you're giving them a touch, you're letting them know that you're doing something interesting. You're reminding them that you exist. But you're also giving this presentation on June 2nd. That's important stuff, right? So make your invitation a good one. Think of the letter you want to send, how you want to introduce people. It's huge. So don't just think, well, I'll invite 10 people. If they come, they come. I mean, that's a way to do it. And I thank you for that. But what's Jerry saying? There's no geographic, right. There's no geographic restriction either. So yeah, you can invite anyone. Okay. All right.
What I meant by that, Chris, is look, I got people all over the country, Florida. They can all come to this. That's the
One-
beauty of a virtual trade show. You know, they don't have to
100%.
fly up here, and they can come in at any time, right? So,
Yep. And I'll tell you that our plan for right now, just so you know, is talk about geographics, is we're doing this one in June, we're doing one in September and December. And then in January, we're going to start looking at doing these in other cities. I'm probably looking at Boston first. Okay. And then maybe we'll do a national one. But yeah, the boundaries are gone, right? The world is flat all of a sudden, and we can all attend these things and invite anyone. The only difference is time difference, but you know, we'll figure that out too. All right. Part of being gypsies, there's no breaking down early. We can't have empty booths. If you're going to exhibit, there has to be someone in your booth. Okay. There's no leaving early, right? We can't have empty booths. It's not good for your neighbor. Okay. So we're committed as the exhibitors to be there from 1 to 5:30. If you need to exhibit or do something, just have someone else in your booth. I can always get one of my kids to sit in there, and I say kids, you know, like my 25-year-old, to sit in a booth for you while you present or something like that. But yeah, have your team together just like you would at a trade show. I don't know anybody that would do a trade show alone, a real one, right? You always have your team together. All right, so no breaking down early. In terms of the technology and the setup, be helpful with each other. Those of you that have done this before, if you see someone struggling, help them out. Let them know it'll be okay. That's really David's role, that we'll see people struggling when they come in, help them out. Oh, here's a big one. Everybody's Zoom link needs to be up to date. Your Zoom apps. They're coming out with updates constantly. Go ahead, David.
I would, yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say, yeah, that's a good thing. Sometimes they come out weekly or bi-weekly. And then the second thing is that I've learned with doing Zoom training that the app, the Zoom app on your desktop, you should sign into it with your Zoom account. Because if you don't, then it uses the web version, and the web version doesn't have as much bandwidth, doesn't have as much functionality. Things may, not work as smoothly. So I just wanted to add that.
No, I appreciate it. And when you invite guests, make sure they know that their Zoom app has to be up to date, because otherwise they end up in our tech room and we go through the motions of showing them how to update their app, and they get frustrated before they've even started and lose 15 minutes of visiting time.
Right.
What happens if you're not up to date is they can't go to rooms by their own choice. And that's frustrating for them, right? So we have to manually put them in. And there's a lot of rooms, so you're going to we'll probably have 3 presentation rooms. We're probably going to have 30 booths, something like that. When you add up all the different types of booths that we're going to have. There's a lot going on, and it's a lot all at once. It gets very chaotic of sorts, but it's organized chaos, and it's fun. But everybody's apps need to be up to speed. Okay. So I think also it helps to have objectives when you're at the show. So know what your objective is. And mine would be to set up meetings. Don't try to close people at the show, because you're going to get interrupted. For Eric to try to even give a quote at a show, that's crazy, because there's so much involved, or Desiree, or many of you. Just set up your appointments. And I would do that quick in the conversation, right? Because you could get interrupted. Okay. You're going to come back with a ton of contacts or a ton of prospects, and they may not have all come to your booth, but know how you want to approach them and know how you want to rate them in terms of your follow-up. So I used to have a system labeling the back of cards 1 through 5. 1 were duds. They had an AOL email address kind of thing. 5s were the dream prospect. They were the FedEx the day I got back, right? So you need your own rating system of how you're going to evaluate the follow-up. And at least this show's on a Wednesday and not a Friday, Because I was going to say, if you wait till Monday, you're going to forget. But this next show is on a Wednesday. Thursday morning, you're doing your follow-up. So nice meeting you at the show. Love to set up some time with you. You mentioned you might have a referral for us, whatever it is. But if you don't have notes, you're not going to remember. If that makes sense. Okay. Think about how you're going to get your name out there at the show. Right. So in the old days, we used to have trinkets and trash that we would give away, pens and, stress balls or whatever it might be. And I'd always tell people, have a bag that you can cover, that people can carry stuff in, and the biggest bag wins, because they would put smaller bags in the bigger bag. Right. And then it's your logo shining out there. We can't do that here. But what can you do? A lot of us have these nice backgrounds with the QR codes, and that's a way of doing it. But, maybe it's also with your presentation. Maybe it's a topic that can benefit all of us, that we want to go. I don't know, something to think about. This is where your creativity comes in. But think about ways that you're going to get noticed. And part of that is when we make the list of breakout rooms, what your name is. Right. So I forget how many characters actually show. David, maybe you remember, was it 17, or it was not a big number?
No, something like between 15 to 20, I want to say.
So, Desiree, you may not want to show your name, and, you may not even want to show your company name. What you may want to show is marketing or something like that. So if you're not a brand, so M&T, people know. People in the Northeast know. If you're coming from Texas, and I was networking in Houston the other day, trying to see if that was an area we wanted to do a show, they may not know M&T, but they know banking, or they know small business banking or something, but figure out a way in 15 characters that your booth is recognizable. And we'll help them. But we only can help them with the first one. Once they're in the show, they go to wherever they want to go, right? We've lost control of that. We will have a directory, and they can see the directory with your full name and your company name and the booth number. So they can go to the directory at any time. But I think it's just helpful that at a glance, they can see, oh, insurance, you know what? I probably should go to that. Or graphic design, I should go to that. Versus your name. When you're giving a talk, if there's a presentation, have a hook, have a reason. I used to talk to people all the time after they gave talks, and I'd say, how'd it go? And they'd say, oh, it went great, which meant they spoke well and it felt good. It's not why we're doing it. Why are you giving the talk? Is it because it feels good and it's something you want to do? Or is it because you want to get prospects? Is it centers of influence? Who are you trying to attract? What are you trying to do? My opinion would be to set up meetings. And I would evaluate the quality of the presentation with how many meetings you've set up. But you have to figure that out for yourself, and what your motivators are on that. But have a hook. That's pretty much it. We are thinking about having a raffle. Last time we did PR, but I'm thinking of this time we are going to have a raffle for those attendees that have visited all the booths. All right, I'm going to stop the recording here and we can discuss some of this stuff.